Good morning, guys. I hope everyone is doing great. So, welcome back to our channel. Today, we are here with one more important interview question, that is, what are solid principles? This is a mandatory interview question if you are an experienced candidate, and if you are unable to answer this question, 99.9% there are chances that you will get rejected. Because this is my personal experience. Like uh, few years back, like when I was having just 1.5 or 2.5 years of experience, I thought of switching, and I was used to attend, like me and my friends used to attend interviews. So every interview I used to face this question: what are solid principles? So I never used to answer. I directly used to say, without wasting time, I don't know what are solid principles. And used to give more importance, even while I was preparing, I used to give more importance to coding questions, collections, and all those things, comparator, comparable, and all those things, exceptions. So this part I was more concentrated rather than theory, because this is a theoretical question. So I always used to get rejected. So as time passed, all my friends moved out of my company, and I was the only guy stuck. So I was attending one interview with one of the product based company. I don't want to reveal the name. And in that interview, again, I was faced this question. I faced this question in the first round, first question, like what are solid principles? So I was unable to answer. I directly said without hesitating, I don't know what are solid principles. And that guy looked a stunning reaction he gave me, and he continued with other questions. So like 10 to 12 questions he asked me, I was able to answer all the questions, and I was not able to answer this. And this was happening with me in all the interviews. So I asked him, so why solid principles are given that much importance? So he said, okay, Ravi, you in your current project, how many classes are there? So I said, more than 100. And how many packages? He said, like 10, like more than 10, 12 packages are there, 10, 15 packages are there. And then he asked me certain other things, how many XMLs are there, property files are there, all those things. So when I answered him, so he said me, so can't we write all the logic inside a controller itself? Whenever a request comes, I will have all the logic in one class only. So he said me, like, can't we have? So I said, we can have everything, because Java don't restrict us. We can have everything inside one single class itself, entire application in one single class, right? So I said, I was in bit dilemma. Yes, we can have. Then why? Then he asked me, why don't we have like that? So I said, whenever we don't know anything, like at that time, we used to say it's a standard that has been defined in the project. So I said the same thing. That's the standard. So say he laughed and said, you go back home and you Google it. Why are we having different classes, different packages, interfaces, code structure in that way? And you will end up learning solid principles. So I came back, and at that point I learned solid principles. So just wanted to share this experience. So shared. So coming to the question, what are solid principles? The term solid is an acronym of 5 design principles intended to make software designs more understandable, flexible, and maintainable. Solid principles are the design principles that enables us to manage the software design problems. So basically, solid is nothing but, like, SOLID is an acronym of 5 different things. So it stands for single responsibility principle, or SRP you can say. O stands for open closed principle, or OSP. L stands for list scope substitution principle, LSP. I stands for interface segregation principle, IS. D for dependency inversion principle. So these are the 5 principles that helps us a lot while developing a project or any class. So in the end, I will be answering like how I answer this question now. So don't miss that section as well. So what are the advantages that we get using solid principles? So we can achieve reduction in complexity of code with the solid principle, reduce tight coupling, we can avoid the tight coupling here, reduce error and implement a reusability here. So we can reuse the code, increase readability, extensibility and maintenance, achieve better testability. So these are the few advantages that I feel we get. So coming to the first principle, that is single responsibility principle. So, like, this is a bookish definition. You can say a class should have only one reason to change. So this is a bookish knowledge definition of SRP, that is single responsibility principle. Every module or class should have responsibility over a single part of the functionality provided by the software, and that responsibility should be entirely encapsulated by the class. So this is about the single responsibility principle, and mostly a class should be designed in such a way that it only handles a particular or only one functionality related things. You cannot include different things inside a same class, so that violates SRP if you are doing that. So next is L for Liskov substitution principle. So objects in a program should be replaceable with the instance of their subtypes without altering the correctness of the program. So this is the definition. What it means is, if a program or a module is a base class, then the reference of the base class can be replaced with the derived class without affecting the functionality of the program module. We can also state that derived type must be substitutable for their base types. So that is the scope substitution principle. It for generally in simple words, if at all we want to put it, so base type class can hold child class reference without having a huge impact on the application. So that is how we need to provide the implementation. The third is open closed principle, which is software entities should be open for extension but closed for modification. So the design and the writing of the code should be done in such a way that the new functionality should be added with the minimal changes to the existing code. Or you can say it as the design should be in a way to allow the adding of a new functionality as a new classes, keeping as much as possible existing code unchanged. So why is that? Why do we need that? Is because existing classes should be closed for modification. If at all we are changing the existing classes, what I can say, frequently there are high chances that we may introduce new bugs. Only if at all we want to fix the bugs, then only we should modify the existing classes. The next is interface segregation principle. So what it states is, clients should not be forced to depend upon interface that they don't want to use. So this is the definition. We should not enforce clients to implement interfaces that they don't use. Instead of creating one big interface, we can break down it into smaller interfaces. So here instead of having only one, we should segregate a interface in such a way that the class that is implementing that interface should provide the functionality. It should not be like unnecessarily we have to override some method and returning null from it. We should not do that. So instead of that, we should segregate the interface properly. The next and the last thing is dependency inversion principle, that says depend on abstraction, not on concretions. Abstraction should not depend on the details, whereas details should depend on abstraction. So this is the last and final principle, that is we have to depend on the abstractions. So these were the 5 solid principles. So coming to the question, like how I answer. So this is how I answer. Basically, solid principles acts as guidelines to developers while designing the class or project. Solid is an acronym for 5 different principles, that is S for single responsibility, O for open close principle, L for Liskov's principle, I for interface segregation, and D for dependency inversion. While designing a class, we should make sure that each class should have only one functionality related code. A class should be open for extension but closed for modification, which is second principle. Liskov substitution principle states that the parent class can hold child class reference without having any issues in the code. Interface segregation states that we should not make a class to implement unnecessary interfaces, and dependency inversion means we should depend on abstraction rather than concretion. So this is how I answer within a minute, and after that there will be cross questions on this as well, like where exactly, give an example where exactly you have used uh, Liskov substitution principle. So uh, you have to explain if at all you have used Liskov substitution principle, and believe me, 99.9 projects use all this principle. It's just you need to find where exactly you have used what. And there might be a question that have you ever seen a code violating these principles. Yes, you might have seen, at least I have seen, there are many classes that implement interfaces, and in the method that they override, they simply write one logger. This method will never be called from this class. So that is breaking of the principle. When we don't need that method, why are we implementing that interface? We haven't segregated our interface properly there. And there are chances that you might see the classes, especially uh, suppose a validation class is that it's a primary, its complete function should be validating upon some employee object. Suppose it should validate only employee object. Instead of that, you may see it might be sending email also. After upon validating, it might send an email to something, or it might do a db insert operation. So that is wrong. So these are the places like where we violate solid principles. So that is this, that is it from this video, like about solid principle. So I hope if you have liked the video, you can subscribe, like subscribe. If you haven't subscribed the channel, you can subscribe. If you feel, this is beneficial, you can like the video, you can share this video to other technical platforms to help others. If you have any feedback, you can comment it out in the comment section as well. So that is about this video. And if you are on our channel for the first time, and if you have a question like who are we and what we do, so we are basically a bunch of software engineers who attend interviews with different MNCs and share our real-time interview experiences through these videos. If you want to share us your interview experience, you can mail your experience at the email ID that is given in the description. Apart from that, you can visit our channel and see the number of like more than 100 interview experiences we have already shared. And I personally feel that that is really helpful to lot of people, because like daily we get tens mail, like more than 10-15 mails saying like thank you mails that our channel is helping at least a few people. We really feel very happy when we see that kind of mails, because the intention was that to help people. And if you liked it, if you haven't subscribed it, just subscribe the channel, because there are many videos that are there in the queue. As we are not getting time, we are not preparing more videos. And thank you for watching.